Hi friend, welcome back. I'm Shauna Yurko, video producer and video coach for entrepreneurs who want to get visible with social media online using video content. In this episode, I'm talking with Cristal Jacobo, founder of She Is Made for More, a global movement that hosts events designed to help women step into their version of more. She's served hundreds of women around the world with her retreats, her events, her mastermind, her coaching, and I've actually worked with her as one of my clients, filming content for her events, so I've gotten a front row seat to how ethically smart this woman is when it comes to sales. And in this episode, we are getting into some sales tips, my friend. Ones that you're not even gonna believe. She's built the most beautiful, authentic community where people feel so safe to be seen. And it truly is a community. And you don't always get that vibe with a lot of the events that you go to as a female entrepreneur. So this really speaks to Cristal's authenticity, Cristal's vibe and intentionality with how she's built this community. I can't wait for you to hear more about She's Made for More and about Cristal's sales tips. Oh my gosh, just wait. It is epic. Cristal is such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to business and building more wealth and sales and community. I cannot wait for you to hear what she has to say in this episode, my friend. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you are just listening to me in your earbuds, welcome to the party. This is the Creative Minute. Let's get into it. Hi, friend. Welcome to the Creative Minute, a podcast for the entrepreneur who's obsessed with personal growth, creativity, and marketing strategy. My name is Shauna, and I am a super nerd about all things content and entrepreneurship. In this space, we are sharing stories, tips, and actionable steps that will help you get more creative and have more fun with content creation. I'm all about making content fast and easily so that you can crush your visibility goals and actually move the needle in your business. Plus, we'll talk about how to chase after the best and most authentic version of yourself in your life, business, relationships, and more. So pull up a seat and let's have a brunch-style chat and break things down in a way that feels easy so you can focus more on doing the things that you actually love and want to spend your time doing. Let's get into it. Hi, friend. Welcome back to the Creative Minute. I am here with my amazing friend, Cristal Jacobo. She has created an enormous and such a tight-knit community. It's called She Is Made for More. And Cristal and I have actually worked together on a few different highlight videos and content pieces. And what I've learned from her is that she is amazing at selling. And it's not like a buy from me, buy from me, buy from me style of selling. She sells so effortlessly and it comes from her heart. And so I'm so thrilled to have her today on the podcast. Cristal, how are you?
Hello. I'm so excited to be here and just have all the conversations.
Oh, it's going to be so fun. Okay, so I know that I just kind of introed you, but I would love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners and tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what you're excited about right now.
Yeah, so I'm Cristal Jacobo. I am the founder of She Is Made for More, which you kind of talked about it a little bit, but this is a global movement. It's a global community worldwide, and it's all about stepping into your more and doing it through what I call the I see you, that you're made for more, you see her and she sees her. So it's like a whole movement of together, unapologetically, we all step into our more. I host events, I host retreats, I have a membership, I have a mastermind where it's all about helping women bring them the tools and the strategies to step into their more and build a life that is full of all these beautiful memories and also wealth, and where we're together changing the story and the narrative of what once was, is it what has to be. So in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Obsessed. And you've really created this really beautiful life where you get to spend so much time with your son and you get to pour into your amazing clients, but it doesn't seem like you're doing the hustle culture life. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. What does wealth mean to you? This is something you talk about at your events and I love it.
Yeah. So I come from a family where we had zero to nothing. And I remember my dad always working. And even though he was always working, we still had very little on our table. It's just how we grew up. So I realized I almost developed this mentality of more all the time. I had to get a degree. I had to go to college. I had to get a house. I had to get a car. The next thing and the next thing and the next thing, almost to the point where I was 25 years old and I was at the top of the degree system. I already had my credential. I had my master's. The only thing left was to get my doctor's degree. But I also had a part where I didn't really want the doctor's degree, but I felt like I needed it to validate to people and show people that I wasn't lazy and all these things. And it was more and more and more. And I was sitting down in the couch one day with my friend, and she said, hey, I was telling her about the different programs. I was like, there's this program and there's this program. And she's like, Cristal, why are you getting it? I was like, I want to be a principal one day, because I was a school teacher. I want to be a principal one day. And she's like, but why are you getting it? I was like, I don't know. And I didn't have an answer for her. And she's like, I think you're trying to prove to everyone, one, that you belong. She's like, your biggest struggle with you is not being enough. Do you belong? Are you worthy enough? She's like, I've seen that over and over, and I love you so much. She's like, but we love you how you are. I'm sure your parents are not going to love you even more. And she kind of planted this little seed in me where I think for the next year I kind of was wondering, okay, why do I exist? Why am I here? And I went through this whole loop of figuring out of like, okay, what's my purpose on earth? Am I meant to be a school teacher? And I started questioning everything.
Wow.
And I realized through all of that my definition of success was just more things, buying a bigger house. That was how I was showing to the world that I was successful. But internally, I don't want to say I wasn't happy, but I wasn't miserable either. It was just kind of like cruise control life where you wake up at the same time, and happiness is just something you see on a book. But I had my spurs of moment. And I think that moment itself for me, if I come back all the way now to my present moment, I've realized where I don't want to live life in cruise control. And I'm very, very intentional about my life. Who is in my world? Where do I spend my time? Because I have in my current life right now, I have moments that suck, like where I have to wash the dishes. I'm not a wash my dishes type of girly. But even when I am washing those dishes, I'm so grateful for the time that I have to be able to wash those dishes, because I've built my business with intention. I've built my offers with intention. Because when I started the business, I repeated the pattern that I did teaching. I was selling offers, doing this, almost having 27 one-on-one calls on my calendar every single day, to the point where I remember this moment very distinct. It was my little cousin's birthday, and my mom called me, and I was like, Mom, I can't. Don't you know that I work? But I said it almost angry, Shauna, where I was like, Mom, I can't go. Like, I have clients. And I said it angry. And as soon as I hung up, I thought to myself, wow, I built this business, quote unquote, to have freedom and to have time. And I can't even make time to go to this little kid's birthday, which is, I'm not super close to my little cousin, but I can't even make it. And then that put me in the thought of like, okay, what's going to happen when I become a mom, and this and that. And at that point, I burned it all to the ground and I started over. And everything I was building was, okay, what is the purpose? In 5 years, what is this going to mean? Then we started really building this to where now, to go back to your question, it's about, for me, it's wealth. I don't want to just have money. I don't want to just be rich. I don't want to just make money to make money. I want to know, what is the purpose of why am I here? What is the purpose of why I'm creating this? What is the purpose and what is the freedom that it has? Because it's not just about me. It's about the next generation and the people around me. And random fact, but even if you live under a rock, you're going to impact in your lifetime 2,100 people. Even if you never come out of your room, you're going to impact in your lifetime 2,100 people. And I think when I read that stat, I was like, okay, without me trying, 2,100 people are going to get impacted. What happens if I actually try?
Ooh, goosebumps.
Started a whole revolution where She's Made for More was born, where the offers, where the mentality of how I've been evolving and going through postpartum was a whole journey where I evolved even more. But it really brought us back to, I don't just want to build a business, I really want to build wealth. And we've been doing that now where, again, how does this offer tie to the next company? And where does this pour into our next employee? And it's all now tied to what is the greater purpose. And I think that's wealth for me. It's having the freedom and having our business create the next thing.
Oh my God, I love it. I'm obsessed. So there were a couple things that you mentioned. I love how you just talked about like building it with intention. And thank you so much for kind of outlining what that looks like. And I love that you also didn't really glaze over the fact that it was like, okay, it took me a second to get there, and I had to do it the hard way kind of, and then I figured out, okay, this isn't what I want. And it's okay to start over and build something different, or like just build it in a more aligned way, right? I definitely experienced that like in my postpartum life. I think that I have talked to a couple of people on this podcast and maybe even recorded a solo episode about how like postpartum, I basically just said yes to everything that kind of felt like, okay, sure, I'll go do that to make some money. But it was a really good opportunity for me to like kind of figure out what I liked again. Then from there, figuring out what I liked, building that intentionally. So I love it. I love that part of your story. But also, can you talk to me? We've had conversations before, and I know that you have been really open about like I don't know if we would call it like a visibility wound, but like you were nervous to be seen, and
Yeah.
you had the worthiness stuff. You mentioned that a little bit
Mhm.
ago, which was amazing. I think that's something so many of us struggle with. I know I do, and no matter how much mindset work, it's almost like at each new level we reach,
Yeah.
either a new devil or that same devil pops back up,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh wait, I thought I dealt with you.
Yeah, yeah.
But will you talk to us about that fear of being seen and how you kind of came through that?
Yeah. Well, I think first you have to remember that whatever fear you have is valid to some degree. And I
Hmm.
tell my clients this all the time, but if you're afraid of this or you're feeling weird, it's valid to some degree because taking it all the way back, we are born with zero beliefs. As a child, you don't know that this is red or this is black. This is black only because someone told you, and that piece of information was like processed in your brain and shoved in a file somewhere, and this is now black. The same thing happens with our wounds and our triggers is someone
Hmm.
gifted to them, to us, whether it was a worthiness wound, whether it was something. And there's a process actually that I always talk about, but when I notice there's a wound or something happening in my body, I have to pull away from, if it's even if it's like an anger with my husband or something, or a conversation I mean you have and it triggers something in me, I'll kind of pause in that second and I try not to react. As hard as it is, I try not to react. Then I'll pull myself away from that situation and then I ask myself, number one, like, what am I really feeling? And I try so hard to identify it. And if you have trouble with this, just go to Pinterest and put like emotion wheel or like some, and it gives you all these,
Ooh.
like a giant list of emotions, anger, envy, blah, blah, blah. And I try to pinpoint like, what am I actually feeling? Let's say it's like shame because I'm shameful or whatever. Then number two is like, okay, when was the first time I ever felt this? And I
Oh, this is so good.
and I sit here, Shauna, and I'm like, okay, so going back to your wound of like worthiness, why do I always feel like I don't belong? Why do I always feel like I don't belong? And I went to that emotional wheel. I literally typed in Pinterest, like emotion wheel, and where belonging, it triggers down to another emotion, or like not being good enough triggers down to belonging, and like worthiness wound, that's all tied in the same category. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm not worthy. And it tied down to, I feel like I don't belong. So I identified it as best as I could. I sat here and I was like, okay, why do I feel this? And when was the first time I ever felt it? And for me, it goes all the way back to being around in fifth grade. And my dad's sister, which is my aunt, lived in LA her whole life. But about once a month, they always came down. And my dad, being a brother and the host and everything, would get his kids out of their rooms and shove my aunt in our room. At that time, the story that I was telling myself, because step one is like, what am I feeling? Step number two is like, when was the first time I ever felt this? And step number three is, okay, what did it actually mean? And what is the story that I'm telling myself? Because it's different. Because what it actually meant, like we kind of glaze over that. The story that I'm telling myself is the story that's going to carry the wound over for years and years and years and years. And I don't think many of us are taught this work. So go with that worthiness wound, Shauna, what I realized is, okay, the story that I was telling myself was, I don't matter to my dad. Anytime someone comes over, Crystal, get out of your room, give them your bed, and you're my dad. You're supposed to take care of me. You're the one that's supposed to protect me, but you can't even do that. So it was like, I'm not important in this house. I don't matter no matter what I do. And there was so many things of even my grades. My grades had to be at a certain thing. And if not, my parents weren't happy for me. And they were like, I would come home and I would get punished if I had a certain grade and all these things. So no matter what I did, it was never good enough for my parents. That was the story that I was telling me. But in reality, the real story was my dad was just trying to be a good host for his sister. Crystal's little.
Yeah.
I can just shove her in my bed. I can shove her in any room versus they're coming with their husband, their kids. They need like a little space. That was a real story. And then going back to the grades, the real story was they came from nothing. They came to a country. They crossed the border. They got here. Like they came from nothing. They didn't know speak English. Of course, they wanted the best for their daughter. But to me, it was just, I'm never going to be good enough for you. Two very different stories. But I was carrying heavy the one that I had made up, the one that I felt, the one that my body and my everything felt. Moving forward with friends and everything for the next decade of my life, it was making sure I dressed how my friends dress, making sure that even when I bought a house, that I invited everyone, that I had their desserts, that I had their snacks, because I wanted to belong. And I didn't realize to what degree that carried on. And even with coaching, when I was hiring clients or when I was onboarding clients, it was, okay, what time do you need me to be at the call? Okay, that's fine. I'll do it at your time. Okay, that's fine. Oh, you want to send me copy at midnight? That's fine. Let me get up right now and let me answer it. Where the point that I was operating from that I just want you, I want to belong in your world. I want you to see me. I want you to like me. And I didn't realize to what degree it was, because it built an entire business where, yes, it was making money. Don't get me wrong. We had our like 60K months. We had good months where, coming from teaching, 60K is what I was making a year. So
Yeah.
it was like, how dare I complain about the income in the business when it's working? But I was slowly feeling so overwhelmed. And not miserable again, not miserable, but it was just overwhelmed and overwhelmed and overwhelmed, to where I had to realize, okay, either I do this for the rest of my life and I make it work, or I sit down and just kind of figure like, okay, Crystal, what is happening? And again, going back to those 4 questions, I realized this story that I'm carrying isn't even mine, but it's this worthiness of belonging. I want to belong. I'm not good enough. So I got to provide more and more and more. I got to have more and more and more things because I'm not good enough. And that turned into a spiral of like, okay, Crystal, we have to slow down, and we have to, every single belief, going back to the beginning, what I was talking about, every single belief that we've inherited, or that we're carrying around, they're just beliefs. We get to rewrite the story. And I started becoming obsessed with proving to my brain that I did belong. Proving to my brain, and don't get me wrong, like I'm not, oh, I belong all the time. Like I still carry this wound, but it's so much smaller than what it once was. And when I notice popping through, it goes back to, okay, what are the facts? The facts are going to fact. What are the facts? We've built the business. We have the system, we have the community. As silly as it sounds, for those wounds, we have to prove to our mind that they're not true. And we prove to our mind that they're not true with those facts. What are the facts? What are the things that actually happen? And like a crazy person, repeat them over and over and over, because you're rewriting the story that perhaps has been inherited in your body for 20, 30 years. It's not easy. People are going to say, oh, just get over it. I'm sorry, but we're not going to get over it.
That is so rude if they say that.
We need to process it and get over, and not even get over it, but we need to process it and rewrite it to have the new narrative on the other side. So that kind of became like my wound of being seen, because truthfully, like that wound was valid for me. It was just, I wasn't seen as a little kid. And then when I was 21, my parents were like, all right, guess what? We're not from the country and it's your job. And I was like, whoa, we've been hiding this whole time. And everything attributed to that wound, to where when it was safe.
Whoa, wait. So you didn't know till you were 21?
Yeah, so my parents came into the country, and everything, the house, the cars, everything were under their friends' names. We didn't own anything. We didn't own a single thing.
Crystal.
Yeah.
21 years. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
That would definitely trigger a visibility. My God.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it. My mentality was being the older daughter of like, okay, we need to fix this. What do I need to do? What lawyer do I need to hire? It was just in go mode. It wasn't until years later that I was talking to a coach, and she's like, Crystal, well, your parents learned to hide really well because they were in this country. They couldn't be seen. That's why they weren't going to my award ceremonies when I was a little kid. That's why they didn't go to my field trips. Anything related to school, my parents were never around. And again, it ties back to that I'm not good enough wound, which wasn't the truth. But it's just, as a little kid, when you're seeing all the parents show up and your parents don't show up, you tell yourself a story. Turns out they didn't go because they were afraid of getting deported. Reality. That's what the reality was. And it wasn't until 21 when they're like, hey, we need to talk to you. And at 21, you think the traditional, oh, my parents are getting a divorce. It still sucks, but whatever. And no, it was, hey, Crystal, we have this thing that we've been hiding from you guys. We are not in this country legally, and we are told that when you have a daughter at 21 years old, they can petition for you. And it went down a rabbit hole. They've now been U.S. citizens for maybe like 8 years, 9 years.
Yay!
So I think I started the process for them at 21, and I think at 22 everything went through, and I'm about to be 32. Yeah, so yeah, about 10 years. Yeah, they've been.
I forget how old I am all the time. I'm like, what am I? That's amazing, by the way, first of all. And I love that you kept saying, like, you have to consistently remind your brain of the facts. I think that's so powerful. And thank you so much for outlining your awesome process for how you go about identifying those feelings. I'm obsessed with this whole emotion wheel thing. I want to like order a physical one. Because
they have pillows. So I told my client, we always go to this process with my client. She was like, girl, they have a pillow. I don't know where she got it, probably Googled it somewhere, but it's a pillow. It's an emotional wheel, and it has like the whole circle with the emotions on the outside, and then in the inside a wheel, like what do they actually mean? What's that thing that's being triggered? And it's a little pillow that she has now in her office.
Immediately Googling, finding it. I'm gonna go get it. So good. Thank you. Okay, so one of the things I was really excited to bring you on the podcast, first of all, is your amazing story and just your beautiful power of being able to help people reframe things in their mind, which you have done in like 15 minutes, which is amazing. But I also would love for you to share some of your sales tips, secrets,
Yeah.
anything, because a lot of the people and clients that I work with, they come to me and they're like, hey, I need help marketing my business. I need help getting on video. I need help getting more leads. And I see this, we implement systems, we'll like get them a
Mhm.
freebie and like do some email sequences and all the things. And there's a lot of automated stuff that can work. But let's say we have like a high ticket program that people are trying to get into. Sometimes selling is necessary and like
Yeah.
actual conversations with people is necessary. I would love to hear how would you advise people? Because a lot of my people are like, well, I don't get on sales calls. I don't sell. I don't do anything. What do you recommend to people who are trying to attract leads using Instagram or YouTube or any sort of social media?
Well, first and foremost, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And
Ooh.
we used to hear this all the time when we were little kids. My mom would always say this, well, if you were hungry, she'd be like, well, closed mouth doesn't get fed. So I didn't know you're hungry, so I didn't make you an extra taco or whatever it was. And that saying kind of stuck with me. And going into sales now, there's two main systems that I go through with clients and that I teach when I'm talking about sales. But one of them is a closed mouth doesn't get fed, meaning, okay, 90% of people are scared of selling because of the narrative that you're telling yourself that it's tied to selling, that I'm money hungry, or that I'm this, or that I'm going to be, that I think I'm better than you because I'm selling, whatever it is. First, you have to sit down and identify what is that story that you're telling yourself. That baggage that you have that you're carrying, like that wound of your money. Everyone has one. No big deal. Just sit down and be like, okay, what is the story that I'm telling myself? Because we have to identify it. You have to. Okay, I'm not selling because I think I'm money hungry, or I'm not selling because my mom's gonna think that I think I'm better than people. We have to identify it, because when we identify it, we can start proving the facts. And we can start showing ourselves, okay, no, I'm not money hungry because I do this, or I'm not money hungry because I'm here. We have to start building that confidence, because again, I can give you the strategy, but what you feel in your heart and what your mind's telling you is going to overpower any strategy. So it has to come down to what you have to identify that wound. What is telling you, and we're on rewriting the story. What once was isn't what has to be, and what can continue to actually be part of our lives. That's step one. Step number two is we have to make selling the way that you like to sell. So often we think, oh, this is how Cristal sells, this is how Shauna sells, so I have to go on stories and I have to go through discovery calls and I have to do this. No, you don't. You have to figure out how you like to sell. And most of us like to sell how we like to buy.
Ooh, interesting.
So if you look at that, like, how do you like to buy? Do you buy things when they're in discount? Do you buy things when there's like 24 hours before cart closes? Literally make a bullet point list of the things that excite you about buying. It's on promo. I'm going to get buy one, get one free. Make a list of that. Because when you can have a list of those things, you can have a base of, okay, I think I want to try these things because they cause the same excitement that you get when you buy. So for example, when I started this, I was selling like everybody else. I have to do this and I have to show up in this and I have to this, to the point where I didn't want to show up, or vice versa. I was attracting all these things and it was just feeling weird. I'm an Enneagram 7. I like to make things fun. If they're not fun, count me out. I don't want to be a part of it, or I'll drop it. I just want to have fun, to the point where they were reading my human design and they were like, Cristal, you know, in your human design, this gate, you're literally wired to have fun. Like, if it's not fun, you don't want to do it. I was like, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I love that.
So I like to make it fun. So having this bullet list that you do, you put it on your wall, you put it on your phone, you put it somewhere. And then again, going back to a closed mouth doesn't get fed, I always like to think people, at least once a week, you should be selling on your stories. Selling doesn't have to be 30% off. Asking yourself, okay, how can I make this fun for me? That's just how it works for me. And realistically, that's how it works for most of my clients, because if it's not fun, they don't want to do it. But how can I make this fun? And depending on the stage of life that you're in, if you're at the beginning where you just want to make money, you have to make it fun and you have to sell, because selling triggers our brain and it creates a file that, oh, people are actually buying for my stuff. The more you sell, the more confident you get. Selling is just a skill. You can't ride the bike if you never dare to step on the bike. Same thing is with selling. You can't sell if you never open your mouth to actually sell the first thing. It's gonna feel icky. It's gonna feel weird. Let's normalize that. Okay. But you are also building something way bigger than you. You're building the wealth for your kids. You're building the business. You're building the freedom. You're building the dream. It's way bigger than the sell. And I think when you make it about someone else and why you're doing it, it helps a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then going into your sales is creating the system that's going to work for you. But once a week, you should be selling something. And even if it's like, hey, just little reminders. Hey, don't forget that for the month of April, I have 2 spots open for coaching this. Or hey, for the month of May, I have 1 spot open. You just have to start practicing that lingo, because the more that you practice your lingo, the more confident you can feel when you're actually selling. And I want to remind you guys that selling isn't like, you're not responsible for someone's yes. Like, I don't know who
I
needed
like
to hear that, but you're not responsible for someone's yes. You're only responsible for the invitation that's going to help them come into your world and transform their life in some type of way. That is all you're responsible. If somebody says no, that is not, you don't take things personal, but most of us do. She said no, what does it mean about my offer? It means nothing about your offer. You just move on and you talk to the next person. And I say this because most of us are judging our clients. They didn't buy right now. They didn't buy right now, they didn't do this, or we're judging them. Well, they want to change their life, but they haven't dared to invest. Don't judge your clients, because you never know what your clients are going through. Our only job is to be there and hold space for them the best we can. And I'll give you a scenario. I have a client who left me on red for I want to say almost 5 years, but it has to be 4. Red all the time. Asked me about all the products, all the programs. Hey, what's this? Hey, what's this? Every time I sent her, it left me on red. It was so easy for me to take that person and be like, man, screw this person or this or that. Like, they're just messing around with me, or like whatever it is. Like, it's so easy to take things personal. And I was like, all right, whatever. When she's ready, she's ready. That's literally my mantra. When they're ready, they're ready. Mm-hmm. I think going into year 5, she messaged me out of the blue and she was like, hey, Cristal, I'm ready to be into your world. Can you please send me the invoice for the next upcoming thing? She didn't even know what it was. Send me an invoice. Send me an invoice for the next upcoming thing. She's been in my world now for 3 consistent years.
Amazing.
Every single month, her payment hits. Every single month. To the point where she said, Cristal, I only work now to pay you, because I only want to be in your world. Like, I'm not going anywhere. And I always say this, I was like, whoa, at first that was like a really heavy comment. I was like, whoa, you only work to make sure you pay me. But I thought about it and I was like, we've created such a safe space, such a community where it's almost like I can't afford not to be a part of it now, because my life has completely transformed in here. But remembering, like, we don't judge your clients, because some of you are judging your clients. You're judging your clients, she didn't buy, and you're moving on, and you never want to talk to them again. Or stop judging your clients. Like, just go back in here and get used to telling people, hey, Shauna, I have this coming up. Let me know if you're interested. If not, no worries. I'll talk to you later. That's it. Because people can feel the tension when it's, hey, let me know. I close the cart by 24 hours and at 2 p.m. it's the last. People can feel that energy.
Yes.
We don't get to make it about ourselves. We get to literally create a system that's so liberating that selling is just an invitation. Either you come play and have fun with me, or you don't, and that's okay.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that, dude. Ugh, because there's been so many times when I'm in a sales conversation with someone who I'm considering buying from, or either I'll forget, I'll just randomly forget, or life gets busy and my kids get sick and they both get strep and hand, foot, and mouth. Like, oh my God, poor Cristal. I was texting her when my daughter had hand, foot, and mouth this last month, and I was like, oh my God, what do I do? She was like, get the chamomile tea, get the calamine. She was so great. But I was actually driving with my husband yesterday, and we've had like family things happening over the last few months. And then my husband has had some health issues, and I was thinking about it. I was like, isn't it weird that every single person in all the cars driving around us all have their own experience that they're going through, their own family things, their own health problems, their own career or job problems or money problems. And so when we're having conversations with people like that, like, people have lives, right? Their whole life isn't surrounding whether or not they're going to buy from us, even though that's what matters so much to us. So I love that you are advising people to like shift your perspective, and you're not responsible for their yes. I love it.
Not responsible for their yes. It's just so liberating to say, hey, my only job in this world is to invite people into my world. And again, without judgment, because you never know when their 3rd year is going to hit, and they're going to send you that DM and says, hey, I don't know what you have going on, but I'm ready to work with you. And here it is. And now they've been with me for 3 years. Like, you don't know. And you're closing that portal of possibility because of the judgment.
Ooh, the portal of possibility. I love that. Maybe that's what the title of this episode would be. The portal of possibility. I love it. Well, friend, where can people find you? This has been seriously such a valuable lesson. I feel like I need to have you into my community for like a guest expert session where you like, oh my God, because I don't know, anyone listening to this conversation will probably be like, I'm going to find Cristal right now. Where can they find you?
I'm mainly on Instagram at cristal.jacobo, and I am also on the podcast. Every Wednesday we drop episodes of, I call it like the soul strategy, because again, I can give you all the strategy in the world and I can teach you how to sell and I can give you a script. But if we still have like a fear, we're not going to do it, or we're going to do it with fear and our clients are going to feel it. So I drop these episodes on every Wednesday on my podcast, and we dive a little bit on the soul, the structure, the strategies of what is life and how to reflect on it.
Amazing. And what's the name of your podcast for people listening?
She is Made for More.
Beautiful. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for pouring into this community here, Cristal, and I appreciate you, and I can't wait to have you on again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. Hey friend, thanks so much for listening. I hope you loved this podcast as much as I loved recording it for you. It would mean the world to me if you would share this podcast with your friends or on your Instagram story like, oh my gosh, I just listened to the Creative Minute podcast and it was so good. It means the world to me when you help get the word out there. And if you'd like to work together, head to shaunayurko.com to see all the great ways that we could connect and work together. Don't forget to follow the podcast, thecreativeminute.podcast on Instagram. Get educational content from me at Shaunayurko, SHANAYURKO. Can't wait to connect with you, my friend. I will catch you in the next episode.